Welcome back to the Empty the Quiver podcast, your front row seats for all things Utah Archers. From game recaps to standout performances, we'll be your guide to all things orange and blue. Let's let it fly. Ladies and gentlemen, today we are joined by a very special guest, Archers Assistant Coach Brian Kavanagh. Coach Cav, thanks for joining us today.
Of course, man. Excited to talk with you guys. Always a pleasure.
Yeah, I mean, obviously we're a week removed from the end of the regular season, 2 weeks removed from, the win over Little Brother. Talk to us about kind of how the team's feeling, what's next. I think obviously we have a practice somewhere, the weekend of the quarterfinals, what's going on in the Archers locker room right now.
Yeah, it's exciting. Finally, mathematically last weekend, figuring out that we got the bye, and we are going to be practicing. Found out in Philly next weekend, the same time that the other teams will be playing their quarterfinal games, which will be great. We'll get a couple practices in on Friday night and a Saturday morning, which will be nice to kind of stay in that rhythm of traveling and just seeing everybody, and obviously keeping the sticks in our hands. But morale is high, and I think everybody's pretty excited about earning this bye and earning some time off, but still very much focused on the goal at hand.
So be honest, was morale low ending of last year, first 2-3 games of this year?
I mean, yeah, at the end of last year, it's about as low as it can be. It's kind of funny in Boston. I mean, it's same setting, right? It's like play the chaos in the last game of the year. Heading into that game, there was potential for us to win and get in, and who I think it was the Cannons and the Redwoods playing before us, right? It was kind of hinging on the outcome of that game, and guys were talking about being on the practice field for the pregame warm-up is like right next door, and you could hear everything happening in the stadium. So like we had the game on a phone to like see the score, but you would hear the crowd react before there'd be like a 10-second delay on the TV. So you'd be like, oh shit, like California scored again. Like, so we knew obviously going into that last game last season that there was no hope for us to get in the playoffs, which absolutely sucked. So to turn the tide and put ourselves in a position to have the bye is pretty cool. It's what a difference a year can make.
Back where the boys belong.
Yes, sir.
Yeah, absolutely. Now, what's the game plan? Obviously, there's the whole rest versus rust argument. Thankfully, we have experience here. The two championships that we've won, we've both been the one seed and had a little extra time off. It'll be a month to the day actually between games. How do we keep guys, like you said, in the rhythm, keep sticks in the hand? What does that look like?
Yeah, I mean, getting the practice in the quarterfinal weekend is awesome, right? Because now it's like, obviously the schedule the way it is, we have the bye in the last regular season, so it's like tack on another week and you have a genuine month between games. That practice next week will be great, be invaluable for us to get together and spend some time. But I also just think our biggest strength is like the closeness of the team. Like these guys are in constant contact. We've got our greater team group chat, and then there's the player only group chat that I'm sure is even more active than the full team. So these guys are constantly, going back and forth, and everybody's professional in their approach in terms of preparing their mind and body and watching film and all that good stuff. So we don't really feel like there's too much, risk in the rust versus the rest, but knowing that you need to be kind of still proactive about your approach with so much time away from each other.
So will we have Aiden McGuire and Ryan Steins? Because I know they're playing for Team USA right now.
God willing, man. I mean, I'm knocking on wood right now, right? Like we should have those guys. I don't know when they wrap up in Jamaica exactly. The biggest concern, I think, on everybody's mind, there's a bunch of PLL guys, is like, just please come back healthy. Right? Like you don't even want to put that out in the universe.
Right.
And it's tough, right? It's like that's not a situation where I think there's a lot of guys who are like, should I go? Should I not? It's like, you have to, right? Like that's an incredible opportunity. Obviously, anytime you get the opportunity to put on, perform for your country, that's the highest possible honor. And also for some of these guys that are there, it's younger guys that are trying to impress and make a name for themselves. And, in the absence of some older, probably more solidified members of that national team. So it's a fantastic opportunity, and not one that they can say no to. And I think the timing's a little bit unfortunate, but we kind of holding our breath and fingers crossed that those guys come back healthy and better for the experience.
Yeah, absolutely. Talking about older guys, we've got an older guy that, is kind of working his way back a little bit. Obviously, Tom Schreiber, there was a video on social media the other day. It looked great in the one, 15-second clip. Will he travel with the team to Philly? And, is it going to be kind of like, hey, let's see how he really does in a full practice? Or, what's the thought process there?
Yeah, I mean, I'm not going to give you too much. I think Tom would probably try to kill me if I gave you the full details or really even my full thoughts. But he'll be there, right? He'll be in Philly. He was there in Boston and looked good in a limited role. Was no contact. Played, went through shooting drills and stick work and all that, and then played a little man up, man down at the end, and looked awesome. Right? He kind of looked like the Tom Schreiber of old. So really exciting for all of us. He's taken it day by day. I don't think people realize how hard that guy's worked beyond, behind the scenes and how tough this process has been for him. So, we're all rooting for him. And obviously like that's to get that caliber of a player back, would be incredible. So, yeah, we're hopeful that the Tom that shows up to Philly is a Tom that would potentially be able to play, in a few weeks time, but we'll see what we get.
One of the themes on this show for the past 2 months has been if it's not broken, don't fix it. After the Carolina game the first time around, the famous Max 7 goal game, Leo Johnson's first game where everything just seemed to click. The system Bates had thought about all offseason, drafting McGuire first overall, everything just worked. And it's worked all season. Schreiber's the best player in the world, right? So it's like you've got this system, but he's been there and he's been involved. He's been on the Zoom calls. He's run a lot of them, I heard. He's been at practice. So would it really rock the boat to insert a guy like him?
I don't think so, and I think it's a testament to who Tom is as well. Like he's been proactive all year. I mean, like a month ago, as he's starting to ramp up his process, he's texting me on the side and saying like, "Hey, like start to think about where I fit in." Like he's not anticipating coming back and being, Tom and having the ball in his stick 100% of the time and running the show. And again, I don't want to get too far ahead of myself in terms of how we're going to deploy him if we do. But I mean, Tom is for as skilled as he is and as dominant of a ball carrier is, like he's so good complimentary as well. He could fit into any role pretty seamlessly. So whether it's off ball setting picks for guys, whether it's just being the party starter and bumping it forward, attacking below goal line, above goal line, like his skill set is diverse enough, and I mean he's egoless enough where I think Tom's about as plug and play a guy as I think there's ever been in professional lacrosse history. So I don't think there's it's going to take some time to build some chemistry, and that's why a weekend of practice will be great to get under his belt. But I don't think there's really any concern with the potential of plugging a Tom back into the lineup.
I don't think there's anything in the PL that he hasn't won either, right? So it's not like one of those guys that's just chasing a ring or trying to win MVP. Like he's won it all. He's done it
Right.
all. He's been named the greatest. So at this point, it's just let's go, let's ride.
Yeah, and obviously, this coaching staff has been together since the beginning. Even you had prior relationships with Tom and with Ryan Ambler, from your days at Princeton. I think I saw an article one time where you said you kind of felt a little bit out of place just because you were, right around some of those guys' ages. Obviously, we're in year, was it 7, 8?
Great now, yeah.
Yeah, and so how have you seen your role evolve and really, now that you're not the same age as all the players, how has that all changed?
Yeah, it's kind of flipped, right? I mean, time goes fast, and 8 years is a long time, and now, I feel like an old man around some of these guys, and Tom and Ryan obviously being two of the older guys, probably the two oldest guys on the team now at this point. As well, it's kind of shifted a little bit naturally. So partially just that natural age shift, but also just the 8 years of experience and confidence, and that's been instilled in me through Coach Bates and Coach Rash and Tom and Ryan and the rest of our leadership group. It's just, yeah, it's kind of happened naturally. There's definitely less of that uncomfortability or imposter syndrome, and more of a little bit of, winning 2 championships helps, and validating that you know what you're talking about and you know how to evaluate talent, and you know what wins in this league. So, um, yeah, just confidence through preparation, and then validation through success on the field and off.
You were only 26 years old, to put some context behind Jackson's last question. 26 years old and you're an assistant coach in the PLL. That's pretty crazy. There was an article a couple of years ago calling you the mastermind that makes the Archers the greatest team in the league at doing that. So if you could explain to us a little bit on game day what you're doing next to Coach Bates. I know you're always in the huddle, you're in his ear, and you're with the guys, hand on the shoulder pads, pushing guys out. What goes into all that? Because it's so fast paced, and it's something that a lot of the casual fans might not even realize is going on.
Yeah, I feel like every time somebody asks me that question and asks me to break it down, it's like, all right, that's not a mastermind job. Like it's counting to 6 and like screaming at guys. That's basically what it is. Um, uh, I think I figured out pretty early on, like our coaching staff is loaded, right? And there's very few people, if any, that I respect as much as Coach Bates and Coach Resch in terms of being able to coach the offensive side of the ball and the defensive side of the ball. So I'm like, all right, where can I add value, right? Like I was a goalie, so obviously working with the goaltenders, but like there's only so much you're doing. You're not with these guys every day, so it's not like coaching in college where you're really having an impact there. But between the lines, right? Just there's so much of the game is played between the lines, and understanding. I pride myself on kind of understanding the rule book inside and out, and being able to kind of exploit any loopholes that might be there. Like the easiest one to point to is just the size of the box in PLL. And I think people don't realize it until I've had friends that come to a game live and they're like, holy shit, like this is like, it's a 20-yard box. Like you don't realize kind of the spread of, how much of an advantage you can get front door, back door, on TV as you get in person. Like it's such a wide space. And if you're doing your due diligence about being ready at the corner of the box versus just being kind of hip to hip with a guy midline, like that 5-10 yards advantage is everything at this level. Right. And then really, like, not to it's not even being humble. It just is what it is. Like the majority of our success in the substitution game just comes from the effort of the guys. Like it's very few basic things like that, really just being like, hey, like if we get a 5-yard head start on somebody, like that's the difference between getting a stop on defense, the difference between creating a 2-on-1 and scoring a goal on offense. So like if we're sprinting on and off the field, we're sprinting through the midline and then sprinting from the corner of the box to have that advantage. It's like, as soon as we started to see those plays, result in points on the scoreboard, it's like, how could you not continue to do that? So, I stiff arm a lot of the mastermind talk. It's really not complicated, but it's an area of the game that it's shocking to me that more people don't exploit, I think, to the level that we do. So it's a little bit of preparation, and then it's a lot of just effort and buy-in on the part of our guys.
How much did your job change when the strategy with having 4 short sticks came to play this year with the guys like Aiden McGuire's obviously first pick overall, and now you want them to stay on the field longer and not just immediately get off and make the other defense uncomfortable? Did things change a lot for you?
Yeah, I mean that's honestly it's a continuous process that Coach Bates and I have kind of, we've talked through it a million times. We talked through it at practice. We practice certain things. We've talked about breaking the shot clock down into thirds and having, the first phase of our offensive possession and then a second phase. And, we've put in a lot of time studying, at what point on the clock is there not value in getting that guy off, because now you're just letting the defense play 6-on-5 and you're not going to be able to get that last offensive guy in. So there's been a lot more, I think, thought process into that than people might expect. And it changes game to game, right? Like there's personnel wise, it's like, all right, if Zach Currier plays an offensive shift and then like Piper's got him caught on defense, like that's not, we want to get off the field there. Like that's not a guy that's like trapped that we feel like is going to be advantageous to get stuck in the pick game. So that's one where it's like, all right, we're getting Piper off in phase one there. We're not letting them hang out and set a pick and trying to get a mismatch or get leverage for Kinger or Steiner or whoever. So it changes game by game, quarter by quarter. And it's a constant process of, it's a conversation between myself and Coach Bates. And I think we've gotten it pretty down at this point. Really like the midway point through the season, once we started hitting, I think Chicago, that Atlas game helped us figure out a lot of the kinks with the process. And we've started hitting our stride, but it's still every game presents some kind of new challenge for us, I think.
Yeah. Do you have like personal goals, like in a game, like you want to say, hey, I don't know, I want to have our defensive guys score 2 goals, this game, or I want to, have less than, 2 offsides per game, or how do you evaluate success in the transition there?
Yeah, I mean, it's way more boring than that. I mean, like anytime we get a goal in the sub game, or again, somebody outworking somebody, it's like, all right, like I'll give you a big fist pump, and Coach Bates will turn around and give me a high five and give me credit that I probably don't deserve. But it's probably more so, the negative. I'd rather not show up. Right? It's like if we go the entire game without going offside, great. Like if we go offside, I'm gonna trying to hide my head in shame. Regardless of who was at fault or what the situation was. Like the more that we can not go offside, not have too many men going on offense and take away from a scoring chance. And then as long as we're not losing the same way that we value, beating guys on and off the field. If we're not getting outworked, like that's a win. If we're outworking the other team and we're creating advantages for ourselves, whether we're catching in, as long as we're not giving up, right, goals on the other end, that's really, especially with our defense, which I'm sure we'll talk about, like that's where the value add is, right? How do we get our defense to 6-on-6 and not let Dauber see, shots that are odd man situations, transition situations, hands-free twos? Because if we get to 6-on-6 settled offense, defense, like I'm betting on our group.
Yeah, the Archers defense this year, the 2020 Whips, that's really the top 2. Jackson and I talked about this a couple different times already. Just elite defenses. We joked and then got a little bit more serious as the game started to progress of this team's actually going to average single-digit goals against on the season, and it ended up happening, giving up 9.4 across a 12-game season, not just 10 games. So incredible effort by the defense, incredible season by Brett Dobson. As a former goalie, how hard is it for you to just say, I'm focused on the offense over here and I can't get involved? Or do you do a little bit of both?
It's a little bit of both. And I still kind of pinch myself every week. I get a text from Coach Resch on a Tuesday or Wednesday and be like, what do you think about, here's what I'm thinking for matchups. What do you think? I'm like, I think whatever you think is good. Right? Like, let's trust the process there. But again, it just goes, he's so egoless in his approach and is constantly, asking me for things that I've picked up in my time as a college coach and what I do in high school. And like, for as accomplished as he is, which he's the most accomplished professional cross coach of all time, like his lack of ego is incredible. So there's definitely, ask for some input there. And then Dauber, I'm not sure how much insight I know he was on the pod. I didn't watch the full episode, but how much insight he gives into his preparation and, how much film he watches on shooters and tendencies and all that. It's like, it's incredible. So it makes my job, like, I mean, if they're asking me for input, it's more so even like it's very rarely like a new idea. It's often just like validating what they've already come up with. But no, I mean, it's great. There's so much individual buy-in and like care to preparation from every single guy on that side of the ball and across our roster, really. I mean, it's the same for the Yo guys, but just the attention to detail and the care to like be prepared for not only your individual matchup, but our team scheme is like, it's unlike any other team that I've been a part of. So I don't think there's really any surprise to our success on that side of the field.
Yeah, absolutely. What goes into, kind of deciding what the defensive matchup looks like? Obviously, we lost, Graham Hossack in the offseason. There's not really a replacement for that. I think we've done a fantastic job, the whole Moneyball thing, we're going to replace him in the aggregate. Obviously, Brendan Lavelle has been phenomenal this year as a stopper. And then you could throw Mason Woodward on the quicker, faster guys. Warren Jeffrey's just been the enforcer. Do you look at, prior history in the PLL? Do you take it even further back to college? Like, how does that stuff happen?
Yeah, I mean, it's a little bit of everything. Obviously, there's like Brandon's so unique because he's matched up against Brennan O'Neill in college and CJ Kirst in college, and I feel like that storyline is only going to continue to get played up as we go along, as the playoffs go along, as those guys' careers go along, and that's awesome. Like that familiarity is certainly a strength. But then there's also a thought process to kind of jamming that up. Like if they're expecting that matchup, and all of a sudden you change it up, and it's like, all right. I thought I was getting Lavelle. Now I got Warren Jeffrey beating the crap out of me all game. And, Woody's going to go cover the quick guy. And I think there's a little bit of power to that versatility and the mystery around what the matchups are going to be. So especially there's teams that we play, obviously in conference, you play them twice a year. The matchups might not be the same every single time. And I think that's, again, a testament to how versatile, all of our defensemen are. But just also kind of the genius of Coach Resch of like not overthinking it, but just having little tiny, adjustments that are enough to kind of get the opponent thinking or thrown off their game plan.
Yeah, because like Mitch Dunham was causing turnovers against Jared Bernhardt week 1. It's crazy to watch because it's like a welcome to the show thing where you're like, oh no, he's got to guard Bernhardt. And then next thing you know, he's leading the league in caused turnovers. It also goes to say, like when you look at the success with the drafting, the picks that you guys have made, there's a spreadsheet floating, I think Dan Arestia posted, where it's how many of them have hit compared to other coaches and the picks they've made. It's pretty much just a green screen of everybody's contributed. And you talk about Coach Resch and how he's a defensive genius. It seems like whoever they draft, I'm sure it's a little bit of both, right? Like the deciding who the right guy might be, how coachable he is, can he fit into the system? But then you plug him in with your coaching staff and they become superstars. So from draft day to then midway point and then end of the season when you're actually with these guys and coaching them up, what really like molds these guys into the superstar defense and offensive players that they've become?
Listen, it's not to... I hate to give our staff undue credit. I think we put a lot into it and obviously do a nice job, but so much of it is deservedly so just on these guys. And I think that's probably the most misunderstood part of the draft is how much homework we do on guys' characters and like projecting essentially how serious they are about playing professional lacrosse. Like you don't want to draft a guy that's going to play a year and then work a job on Wall Street and not be able to work. Like that's part of it. It's a realism of the sport in its current state, but also just finding the right guys that are going to fit within the group. Like the more that you fit within the group, you're around the best players in the world. It's easier to kind of thrive in your role. So the Woody pick is a perfect example. Like we knew who Mason Woodward was. Like we knew he was a great player, but had it not been for the vying of, Connor and Piper, who grew up with him and knew him and played with him in the summer back from college. And we're like, hey, not only is this guy an absolute stud, like he fits, like he just fits the group. Like he's a great human. He's versatile, can play up top, down low. Like he will just fit in our group. And these guys know what their peers look like, right? Like they know a year or two into the league, they're like, oh, I played with this guy and like that guy can hang. Like that guy is definitely a PLL player. But more so, again, just the personality and the character fit is paramount. So I think the more that we can lean on those relationships, obviously player to player, those peer relationships, but then also, the relationships that I have with college coaches as a former college coach and Coach Bates and Coach Resch also have, like we take those character references just like anybody can watch the film, right? You can watch film and see that a guy can play. And I take pride in that as well. I feel like we get deeper and watch probably more film than anybody else, but it really is figuring out, is it the right fit? right? From a personality and a character standpoint. And I think that's what I'm most proud of, is that we really haven't missed on any of those guys, right? We haven't really drafted any assholes, I think, for lack of a better term. Every guy that we've brought into the locker room is a guy that's enjoyable to be around and has been a positive influence on the team.
Which is crazy because the number of times Bates has made a pick and then the fans, myself included, are like, what? And then it's just, you know what? I've learned my lesson. Let's just wait and see. And then week 2, week 3, week 4, you're like, wow, he is a genius. This is crazy. But I know it's all three of you guys that contribute. But man, the Woodward pick, I was there in person and I thought, yeah, he's taking Pacino, which nothing against Pacino. He's a great player and he's doing great for the Outlaws. But that's the guy that the media talks up. And that has a lot to do with it too. The big board. And when we talked to Bates earlier in the season, we said, well, the experts. And he just laughs. And he's like, yeah, the experts. Okay. And you don't know what's going to, Reinstein's second round this year. And we're all like, a guy from Utah? But it makes sense. We're the Utah Archers, but it's just not what you think is going to happen. And then next thing you know, he's Rookie of the Year candidate, scoring a ton of goals, and now he's playing for Team USA. So it is crazy.
Yep. Trust the process.
We say in Bates, we trust.
That's exactly right.
There it is.
Well, let's move off the field a little bit. First question, is the first title better or is the defense better?
Man, the first one was pretty sweet. First one was awesome, and then obviously the defense. Like, not to get too corny, I'm fully in the mindset of like, you're not defending that thing, and I think Coach Bates had the famous quote of like, it's ours until somebody rips it out of our hands, which was awesome. It fires you up, but like, I was much more in the sense of like, we're not defending it. Like, we got to go get it again. It's like, it's an offensive mindset of like, we got to go chase this thing and get after it. The first one was crazy. I think also just the nature of that game, and like, it felt like I hadn't watched it back in a while. I watched it like a few weeks ago. I'm not even really sure why. I was like just going back through old game tape, and I'm like, holy shit, like we were up by like 6 goals and it felt like we kind of had it in hand. And I don't think we literally took our foot off the gas, but for them to creep back in and go on their run, just classic lacrosse. And, it's rainy and sloppy and the ball's skidding off the turf. And man, it's like you go to that last play and it's a fraction.
Is that the most nerve-wracking play you've had in your lacrosse life?
Without a doubt. Like, without a doubt. I mean, I'm guilty of it. These guys they joke around with me all the time. Like, anytime we set up where we'll like call a timeout and like set up a ride, and we're kind of, I'll rib myself on it, like probably overthinking it, like big braining, being like, all right, we're going to put, 3 D middies on the field so that we have 1 on each corner and we can match feet with them in the ride. And nobody's going to slip behind us. When like in reality, you probably should just go back and like play cover 3 and keep everything in front of you. Like, we called a timeout and had the ride set up, and we were like, nobody slide upfield, nothing. And it's like, Jared Connors, God bless him, like slides upfield, tries to make a play, somehow balls in Caraway's stick for a 2 to win the thing in the last second. And it's like, holy, there's no way that this is how this ends. And thank God.
We were thinking the same thing. Please, God, no.
But yeah,
when it comes out of that stick.
As soon as that ball crossed midline, I'm like, okay, yeah, like coming out of that timeout, I'm like, this is perfect. Like, we've got the perfect game plan. We've practiced this. We're going to execute it to perfection. And of course, worst possible scenario and an incredible, like, they get a better look than they probably could have even drawn up. It's just what happens in the gray sometimes. And yeah. Thank God. As soon as that ball crossed midline, I was holding my breath. So that's definitely the most nerve-wracking 30 seconds of a game I've ever been a part of.
Yeah. That whole second half of that game was just crazy plays. Obviously, the kind of the man down after the Hasek hit in the middle of the field, the man down goal, the little give and go, Matt Moore and Trey LeClaire was awesome. Obviously Schreiber scoring that goal late, and then the last second save. I mean, just heart in your mouth the whole game. Talk us through just like another one of your just like favorite moments like on the field.
I mean, honestly, I got to go like this year, the opening weekend splitting and not having all our guys. I think the biggest storyline for me. Just one that's special to me because of my relationship with the guy with Shuda playing the first 2 games of that weekend. Like I think it's pretty well documented at this point how good of a teammate is and how beloved Nick is in our locker room. But I don't think the guy gets enough credit for how damn good of a goalie he is. Like kid is a pretty damn good lacrosse player, and certainly deserving of being a goalie in this league. And for him to get those 2 starts and knowing for a while that it was gonna be his net, and he had to prepare to win us 2 big conference games at the beginning of the season that could have made or broken our playoff chances. And like I don't think he could have played any better. And then especially that second game, the Denver game, he was lights out and clearly the MVP of the game, and I think a big reason why we win that game. And just seeing his dad was there again, which I've known his parents, like Coach Nick at UVM, since his freshman year, so I've known him for going on a decade now, and just how proud his dad was, and out at the bar afterwards talking about like he's a starting goalie in this league, like he loves being on this team and as a backup, but like I'm glad he got the opportunity to prove that that he could be a starter in this league, and he's clearly one of the best 16 goalies in the world. So that was a special one for me. And then in addition to that, Colin Sharkey, who was our acting Aiden McGuire for the weekend, as our 4th D midi, is a guy again who played for me at UVM, who we brought to camp late, and he earned a spot on the team. Played at UVM for 4 years and then did a couple grad years at Maryland, and is an absolute stud. So 2 of my favorite human beings, along with Warren Jeffrey, obviously another Vermont guy. So to have him in the lineup and have his family be there and have Nick perform the way that he did was like, I was like emotional on the field for the first time, and I'm like, all right, I gotta lock this in. Like, this is embarrassing. But that was a pretty cool moment for me.
Yeah, Jackson and I both very well remember after game 1 walking around. It was kind of clearing out, and Nick was there talking to his dad and kind of beating himself up because it was a low-scoring game and the Archers lost. But we chatted with his dad for a little bit. Said honestly, he's like, Nick played great. He gave up 1 or 2 that he would have wanted back, but at the end of the day, like, we just didn't score any goals. And then knowing the Outlaws are coming to town and knowing Bernhardt's going to make the trip from, was in Colorado or something, and it's like, oh, here we go. Watching him go over 60% for the weekend
I think after that first game, right after that Redwoods loss, it was like the odds were stacked against us. Everybody the Outlaws coming off a championship run and playing us on a back-to-back, and it's like, oh shit. So that's a big time performance. I mean, if you look at the standings, like, I mean, we're 7-5. Everybody, like, 1 game makes a massive difference. So, to get that win and end up going 2-0 against Denver and 2-0 against Carolina on the year, like, is the difference between being in the playoffs and potentially not. So it's a huge performance in a big time spot.
Speaking of the last minute roster by the Outlaws, this is throwing it back a little bit now, but is there a deadline? Like, why were we waiting until midnight to see who was going to be playing for the Outlaws the day before a game? Does the league make you submit those guys, or can you just kind of hold off?
You're supposed to submit the guys on Tuesday, right? So you submit your travel roster, your 19-man game day roster, and then your 21, your additional 2 guys who are on that restricted roster who are basically on call in case anybody gets injured. So I don't know the full story behind what happened exactly, but usually the process is, it's like if you have your 19 guys on site at practice, somebody rolls an ankle and you're like, all right, we gotta make a decision. And it depends on where it is and where the guy is and figuring out logistics of travel. So, that could have been the reason for just the late notification of they had to make a decision. All right, this guy's hurt badly enough from practice, or he tried to, give it a go in practices and isn't good to go. So we got to bring in one of our restricted guys. And, it's always a little bit of a circus.
Yeah, well, so we talked about on the field. Now let's talk about off the field. I'm sure you've got a wealth of stories over the last 8 years. Just give us a little glimpse into the locker room. I mean, who's
man.
Yeah, I've heard there's a lot of cards that get played, and obviously, there's been stories of Dauber just being Dauber, but you know, just anything that sticks out to you from a training camp that was awesome, or just hanging out with the guys, anything just funny you can share with us.
I think the best one, I mean, just top of mind, like the most recent, it was, and the timing was perfect. I think we kind of figured it out, and it lit a little bit of a fire under us to make sure we performed, and we're doing it after a win. But playing in the Friday night in Boston, the guys have a fantasy football league, and they planned the in-person draft for in the hotel post game, after the game, and we end up not. I don't think we got back to the hotel until 12:30. So I mean, I'm sure you guys are fantasy football veterans. You know how long a draft can go sometimes. 12-team league, everybody in person drafting in the hotel conference room that was our meal room, 5 hours prior, was was a sight. So I think that's honestly where we thrive, where our locker room thrives is, certainly some weekends there's a bar scene and a nightlife to get after, but a lot of times it's kind of just hunkering down in a hotel conference room and getting way too many beers and and just enjoying each other's company. So um, I'll recuse myself from some of the real crazy stories. I'll bow out with that one, but that was a good time. Everybody's wearing different jerseys, college jerseys, high school jerseys from movies. I think Leo Johnson was wearing a Kenny Powers jersey, which was a which was a little bit of a shock, a little more personality than I'm
The
used to
Myrtle
seeing
Beach
from
one.
him. Yes, the merman jersey. I think that's why there was I saw a tweet the next day. Somebody was talking about Dauber on the broadcast of the PLL juniors, referring to Leo Johnson as La Flama Blanca. I was like, all right. I was like, that's where that's from. Um, so yeah, I mean, listen, there's a million stories. You guys are gonna have some stories soon. You've spent enough time around the fellas
You
late
bring
night
up the
after your
fantasy
race day.
draft. I may or may not have. You said hunkering down. I was pulled over into a rest stop on my way across the state, and I may or may not have been preparing a fantasy football cheat sheet for two of your players
Oh
because
no,
I got a text saying, "Yo,
there
man,
you
the
go.
draft is after this game," and I'm like, "Do you know what you're gonna do?" Because yeah, I love fantasy football, and
Who's Sis drafting with? I'm assuming it had to be Sis. He had
it
to
was
call in a favor.
one Mac O'Keefe and Michael Sisselberger.
Yeah, there you
Yeah,
go. There you go.
but they got a good team. I'm not going
Pretty
to take
solid.
credit for it because they
Yeah.
did the work, but I was pulled over. I went into a Chick-fil-A. I took my laptop in. People were looking at me like, what's this guy doing? This isn't a Starbucks.
Well, there was a debate for a long time when we decided day of, because of us getting back from the game so late. They were trying to institute a rule that you weren't allowed to use a computer or phone. They're like, this is an
Wow.
in-person draft. We're going old school, like, oh, I'm dating myself. I think back to my early fantasy football days as a middle
Yes, sir.
schooler. Like, you had to print out, you go on, you print off the Yahoo or the ESPN sheet, whatever, you're not paying for anything. But, pen and paper, old school, you got to keep track of who gets picked and cross them off. So they were trying to get that going. And we realized pretty quickly that would have driven us into the wee hours of the morning. Uh, and so we made the sane decision to allow technology.
For us stat nerds, it was a lot easier to win back in the 90s and early 2000s before
It's true.
anybody could just
Yeah,
ask AI
you had
or,
an edge.
oh my gosh,
If
yeah.
you
And
if
now it's
you
just like
if you prepared, you had an edge.
the system itself, when you're in the application, it gives you who to pick next. So you're like, all right, well, anybody can win this time.
Yeah.
So another random question. You treat making coffee as both an art and a science. You're a coffee
Yes,
guy?
I am a coffee guy. Yeah, but it borderline gets pretentious.
Well, for someone who has never once in my life had a cup of coffee, how does that make you feel?
Okay. Yeah, no,
Not
I
once.
I respect it. My girlfriend's the same way. She's not a coffee drinker. Doesn't drink coffee. I've now I make her a matcha in the morning as well. So I've got like again the official. I think it's just I like having things to go through a process. So it's like the matcha thing too. It's like I got an official set where I'm weighing it out and doing the whisk by hand. Like it's just I kind of enjoy the process. I think I've come to realize that it's like more about the the ritual and the routine more so than it is like, all right, I need the coffee, the caffeine. Like I have one coffee a day. So it's not like I'm a coffee junkie where it's like I'm drinking constantly throughout the day. It's I make a pour over coffee in the morning, or I'll make an espresso and enjoy that, and then I get on with my day. But I get very yeah, the process of grinding the beans. I grind my beans by hand, weigh
What
it
do you do
out.
on the road?
I actually I haven't brought it much this summer. I've kind of that's where I've taken the step back. I'm like, all right, this is getting a little bit ridiculous. But I do have kind of a travel set. I've got an AeroPress. It's like a little pressurized.
So yes,
We
art
don't
and
need to get
science is a good way to
too
describe
deep
it.
into it, but yeah, I've got a smaller hand grinder and a setup to travel with that is quite embarrassing. So, um, yeah, we'll leave it there. It's fine. I think people have their things, their hobbies that they get passionate about, and uh, yeah, that's unfortunately the bug that I've been bitten by in the last 5 or so years.
There are worse things.
I think so. Yeah.
Well, as we wrap up here, I want to kind of look to the future, not only for this season, but really the future of the sport. If you had it your way, who are our next two opponents?
Oh man, you're gonna get me in trouble.
We try to
Um,
play this game all the time. It's impossible to pick, just so you
It
know.
is.
I mean, listen, the easy answer. I was thinking about this the other day. Like, we don't have to get too, we don't get too deep into where we match up better against. But I mean, the easy answer for me, just I think as a competitor, and I think our guys would feel the same, would be California and Boston, just because they're two teams we haven't beaten this year. So I think to cross those guys off the list on the way to a third championship would be cathartic. Like, that'd feel nice, as well as we played. I think towards the end of the season, like going 2-0 against Denver and Carolina, it's like you go 0-2 against the Redwoods, and you lose to the Cannons, who I think have now beaten us. I don't even know how many times in a row. It's been a while since we've beaten those guys, Champ Series included. So uh, those are two teams, that certainly. I mean, we respect everybody. Like, there's just so much talent in this league, and the parity is insane, and anybody can beat anybody on any given day. But I think not having success against those guys so far this regular season, it would be nice to avenge some of those losses on the way to another championship.
Yeah,
Absolutely.
it's a great thought process, and
That's
and
my
really,
political. That's my political answer.
I like it.
Yeah.
And really looking even further than that, obviously we've got the World Championships next year. We got the Olympics in 2028. What do you see for yourself in the next 5 years? Do you see moving to Utah? You maybe looking. Do you have aspirations to lead a team in this league? What does the next 5 years look like for you?
It's a hell of a question. I think anytime I get hit with that question, I don't clam up and shy away from it, but it really does get my wheels turning, because I'm like, I probably don't think I don't think about that stuff enough, um, which I think can be a good thing. I try to be as present and focused on tasks at hand day to day as much as possible. I think I've had success there, but it's a valid question. Man, being in market somewhere full time would be incredible. Uh, being in Utah would be cool. It's awesome just to hear these young guys' thought process around it. Because I think guys that have been around, obviously I wasn't coaching in MLL, but having been a fan and been around guys that played in it and know what that was like, and uh, certainly the upping of the level of professionalism and care on an individual basis. But to see like these young guys now, and like how into it they are, and just their perspective on it, that it's like a real viable full-time gig where they can be in market. Like, I mean, look what Dauber's doing, living in Utah. And like, it's so cool. I think it's awesome. And I think the more people that start to think like that and behave like that, it's kind of like dress for the job you want. Like, if you're playing that role on the way to it, like, that's awesome. If that's what this becomes in the next 5 years, and I'm in market somewhere in an office every day, getting paid to watch college film and have a scouting department and all that cool, like, hell yeah. Like, that would be awesome. Like, that's the dream. And I see I'm long for this league, and I love lacrosse, and I love professional lacrosse and everything that goes into it, and am enamored by professional sports in general. So, I mean, the higher level that this thing can go, like I'm in. As far as leaving to lead my own team or another team, like I ain't looking to leave the Archers anytime soon. I know that's certainly something that could be have some potential down the line to be a head coach, but I kind of think about it the same way that I thought about it as a college coach. Like I want to be as good an assistant as I possibly can. Like I want to coach X's and O's and be as deeply ingrained in pushing forward the product on the field as possible. The territory that comes with being a head coach and being a program manager and dealing with all the other shit is not something I'm excited about yet. I think it's something that is certainly in my future. I don't know how near, but right now I'm just really excited to play the role that I'm in and make the on-field product for the Archers as high level as it possibly can be.
It's the worst part of every fan's season after a successful year. And then you hit the off season, and no matter what the sport is, and you're thinking, oh no, our team was really good. Our coordinators are gone because it's just part of the game because the coordinators are oftentimes, well, they're going to get a promotion and run a team sometimes. So it is unique where the PLL does have 8 teams. It hasn't expanded yet to the point where, but it's coming. You're a young guy. You've got a solid 30 years left if you want them. And you could see a very bright future in this league. So it's exciting. And we're looking forward to that for you as well.
Well, I appreciate that, man. I hope I'm not leaving you guys in our squad anytime soon, but
and we don't want that either.
No, definitely
eventually. Not. We do really appreciate you spending time with us. I was told also if I ever decide to get married in a courthouse that you're the guy to ask to be my witness. So I'll keep that in mind if that happens.
Yeah, there you go. All right, you had Ambler on the line. That's good.
Some cool stories.
Well, yeah, like JB said, thank you so much for giving us some time tonight. We really appreciate it. We're looking so forward to being out in Utah again with you and the rest of the guys. Appreciate everything you've done for the team, for the fans. You're just one of the best in the biz, and it's been a pleasure to watch the evolution. So, JB, you want to take us out?
I have some space. This wall is a lot longer, and I could shift the camera.
Baby.
So if you want to add something to it, I wouldn't be opposed.
I hear you.
Appreciate it, Coach. As always, we end the show with "Let It Fly." Thanks, Coach.
Thanks, guys. Appreciate you.